When you think about it, a lot has already been written and said about smoking, and the reasons why smoking can be so dreadful for our personal health. Yet, a significant number of people are still smoking, even though many wish they could give up. So welcome to this program called Why Stop Smoking? I'll be speaking to a specialist physician about the reason why many people start smoking and what it is about cigarette smoking that makes it so difficult to quit. Smokers know it's hard to quit, but their friends or partners often don't fully appreciate the powerful nature of the addiction to nicotine, or the difficulty of giving up smoking when it may be strongly associated with work breaks, like the traditional smoker, or leisure time, like time at the pub. Sometimes we fail to empathise with those who are trying to give up smoking when they need our support and encouragement. In the next few minutes, we'll look at reasons why people smoke and learn how smoking damages the body and why, if you're a smoker, there are very good reasons to plan to stop. Chris, I suppose to understand why we should stop, we need to get into the basis of why we began. What makes us smoke?
To a non-smoker, that's always an interesting question. I think the short answer is peer pressure. People want to be accepted, so to join the group, either at school or at work or whatever, and they want to be part of that group.
Oh, I actually started smoking when I was about 12. I know, it was just a lot of fun, you know, down the school creek.
Down the creek?
Yeah, down the creek. That's where all the cool kids hang out, you see. That's how you got to know everybody. Yeah.
So it wasn't really peer pressure, it was you wanting to join the group.
Yeah, it was sort of me wanting to join the group. I don't think I really felt peer pressured or anything, but that's where you really got to hang out with all the cool kids. That's where you got to meet everybody, you know. I don't know, it just seemed like a lot of fun at the time, you know. It seemed a little bit naughty.
And that can begin very early in life, down into the early teens or sub-teen years. Every young kid likes to belong to the group, to be a bit rebellious, be a bit naughty, and we then persist and get over the discomfort and nausea that's associated with smoking for many people, and before we know where we are, we're hooked into smoking, we're addicted to the nicotine.
I started sort of working in town. I was a hairdresser, so I started working quite young, and it was a good way to have a break. If you didn't have a cigarette, then you didn't have a break. You know, you just kept on going from one person to the next person. Having a cigarette was a great way. You could go outside, get a bit of fresh air. I know that goes opposite everything.
Chris, when people start smoking, they invariably don't like it. No one likes their first, or perhaps even their 10th cigarette. It's something that you have to grow into.
That's right.
But once you're in it, there you stay.
Yep. And it then becomes part of our workplace. Smoko, if it's not called coffee-o or tea-o, it's called smoko. So it's accepted that that's the time when you do have your cup of coffee and you smoke. And if you come as a stranger into that work group and you're a non-smoker, well, you're thought of as a non-smoker, not quite one of us.
So Chris, from the difficult start often to smoking, it eventually becomes a part of your life. Life doesn't seem to be normal without it. It's something you do.
Yes, I think that's also true. I think you get addicted not chemically, but you get addicted to the habit. You can, whenever you build your model train or whenever you go to clean the car or whatever, that's the time that you fumble for your cigarettes and light up, and that's part of the routine.
Well, it's difficult. It was a total change of lifestyle. Everything that I did, I'd start gardening. And then I couldn't sort of stand back and look at the garden and think about it for a while or anything like that. It was just such a different change. When I first stopped, I almost felt like I lost the plot, because if somebody was talking to me, I felt like I was just concentrating on not having a cigarette all the time. So I almost feel like I lost a little part of my life doing that. Yeah, it was quite an amazing, it was such a strong feeling.
Now, quite clearly there is all the information that smoking is not good for your health. It's on the boxes everywhere. You are told that it won't do you any good. But that isn't really enough. Somehow our body goes beyond that. it's something else that drives people.
I think it's a combination, and I think there's a tremendous variation individual to individual. I think some people are strongly addicted chemically, I think many people in the medical profession now realise that for some people the addiction is as strong as what we recognise in addiction to hard drugs.
I think one of the images we have, and this may come from the television pictures, that your lungs are steadily building up with tar. It's just the tar is becoming more and more.
Yeah, and in spite of the visual imagery, that's not the case. I think we've got to understand that cigarette smoke contains tar and nicotine, but also a gas called carbon monoxide. And the headline of what we talk about generally is lung cancer. And lung cancer is the after effect of prolonged exposure to the tar. It's the nicotine that keeps us addicted, and it's the tar that gives us the cancer.
Now, the damage is not just to the lungs, is it? So what is it about the smoke that gets into the rest of the body?
Well, staying with the lungs for a moment, there's a tremendous disease burden from chronic obstructive airways disease.
In addition to lung cancer, there's the question of emphysema and chronic bronchitis. That these are conditions that are very common in smokers that are caused by the inhalation of these pollutants and cause damage to the lung itself and damage to the air passages leading to the lungs. The end result is considerable ill health, breathlessness, disability, inability to work, increased hospitalisation and premature death.
It's worth realising that the lining of the airways is kept moist with mucus secreted by the glands locally, and also that there's a microscopic drainage upwards system for getting that mucus up out of the airways and unconsciously swallowed.
Why doesn't it drain downwards?
Gravity would take it downwards, but the cilia, the microscopic hairs lining the airways, beat up towards the head. And so that mucus is slowly but steadily waved upwards. It's a bit like seagrass, except that the seagrass is active and moving upwards. So that fluid lining the airways is slowly, in a non-smoker, moved upwards and swallowed. In a smoker, there's more mucus and the cilia are paralysed, so the gravity keeps the mucus down in the lungs. It allows infection to get into the lungs, and then you get lung damage. The smoker's cough is the poor guy in the morning who tries to clear his chest by getting all the accumulated gunk.
It's a terrible sound, isn't it?
It's terrible. Yeah, I won't give an imitation.
What is it about smoking that is so dangerous?
One has more mucus, it gets infected, and that's what causes the lung damage of emphysema.
When we talk about emphysema, I can show you the effects on a cross-section of a chest X-ray called a CT scan. The loss of tissue is well shown on this magnified shot. Here is a large cyst where there is no longer any lung, and here is normal lung tissue. The more lung tissue is lost, the greater the degree of disability. Well, the damage is easy to see, and the most important thing is that this is caused by cigarette smoking.
But that's the lungs, but we haven't talked about the damage to blood vessels. The risks for heart attack, there are several of them, well-recognised risk factors. There's high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, smoking. Smoking is the most important preventable risk factor